This is part A of the KhoodeelaarTV television channel being broadcast on the internet under the banner of Baby Angel Geronimo Manifesto Editions. This is timed at 1800 hours GMT on Friday the 10th of May 2024. The London Evening No Standard is leading belatedly with a front page splash. How the Tories blew it in London. Full story of the behind the scenes mayoral shambles. Infighting, apparatchiks, and a screwed up selection panel. How the Tories blew it. Well, the Tories blew it, quite apart from the fact that they are racist and they're hostile and they're corrupt. Lineup of 4 nubile white women with the criminal corrupt Sadiq Khan has, and these are the deputies, and it says the Happy Friday Sadiq's deputies and PR chief on more money than the Prime Minister. There's a woman called Amy Lane on £132,846. And Sophie Linden, the crook, who is supposed to be the deputy mayor about policing, she is on £147,769. And Sarah Brown on the same amount, Ali Picton on the same amount, and Felicity Appleby on the same amount. And Khan's salary rises to £160,000 with large pay hikes for his top aides. Now this is the corruption, the evilness. Tony Blair, the war criminal, foisted on London. So go back to today's cover story in the evening, Lower Standard. Infighting, apparatchiks and a screwed up selection panel, how the Tories blew it. Now, the Tories, of course, increasingly, the Conservatives have lost any interest in democracy, and most certainly they have lost all interest in democracy in London. Despite that, the congenital liar Boris Johnson managed to get elected twice, 2008 and 2012. On both of those occasions, the congenital liar racist Boris Johnson, the criminal, was able to get elected because of the congenital corruption of Ken the Lying Steel Livingstone. Lying Steel Livingstone had first been elected in 2000 as the pilot, as the inaugural, if you like, election to the post created by the criminal Tony Blair in 2000. Then the Tony Blair fronted criminals in the Labour Party machine decided to unban Ken Lying Steel Livingstone and enter him as a Labour Party candidate for the election, which he won. But after winning the election in 2004, the second time, Ken Lying Steel Livingstone embarked on a program of brazen corruption, criminality, and abuse. The most extensive coverage of Ken Lying Steel Livingstone's corruption concerned the corruption and sleaze done by Lee Jasper. Lee Jasper was the target of the investigation that was carried out by the Evening Standard and was bylined by Andrew Gilligan. And Lee Jasper totally Lee Jasper discredited the office of the elected mayor at the expense of London. So much so that a drunken, increasingly drunken, Ken Lying Steel Livingstone was reduced to come to address the London Assembly members, carrying in his hand a glass of alcohol. The image of Ken Lying Steel Livingstone as an alcoholic drunkard completed the picture of discredit. And he said, Ken Lying Steel Livingstone, in those desperate kind of moments, that he would ask the London Assembly members who were asking questions for answers by Ken Lying Steel Livingstone about the very scandalous behavior of Lee Jasper. He said that the assembly members should go upstairs in the shitty hall because Lee Jasper was there. What a pathetic, disgraceful, discreditable criminal behavior by Ken Lying Steel Livingstone. Now that actually put paid to the ambitions for re-election. And the other thing was that while he was in post, Ken Langston Livingston also was at the center of the still unaccounted for murder of the Brazilian at Stockholm Underground Station. Point blank range, the Metropolitan Police murdered the Brazilian. It later emerged that the Brazilian was murdered because the anti-Muslim, anti-Pakistani murderers in the Metropolitan Police mistook him for a Pakistani. Now that shows the extent of the hatred, built-in hatred, racist hatred that operates in the Metropolitan Police in London. So when the innocent Brazilian was murdered, there was legitimately, factually, a very serious outcry for justice, for accountability. And Ken Livingston was not up to it. As if that was not bad enough, there was this commissioner of the police in the name of London Metropolitan Police called Ian Blair. Now it became clear that Ian Blair was lying. Blair had lied about the murder by the Metropolitan Police of the innocent Brazilian in the Stockwell Underground Station, underground tube train. As if that was not bad enough, Ian Blair was then exposed as having entered a criminal pact with otherwise known extremists based in the East London Mosque. All of that was done contrary to the law, contrary to the evidence, contrary to the requirements of objective transparency. And Ken Livingston failed on every single count. That actually sealed the electoral fate of Ken Livingston at the 2008 election that took place, and Boris Johnson maximized his capitalization and took away the seat from Ken Livingston. At the next election again, the Labour Party foolishly allowed Ken Livingston to stand again as the candidate for election to the post of mayor in the name of the Labour Party. And the discredit that had dominated Ken Livingston's regime between 2004 and 2008 got worse. So much so that Boris Johnson was able to identify one incident of financial irregularity and lying by Ken Livingston. And Ken Livingston never recovered from the financial exposure that haunted him, and he was defeated at the 2012 election. So Boris Johnson became the mayor for the second time, during which regime Boris Johnson himself took it for granted that he was beyond removing. So the congenital adulterer, liar, indulged in a most bizarre, extravagant sexual abuse of his office. as he indulged in the brazen adulterous sex with the American adulteress, if you like, Jennifer Arcuri. So office, the office of the London mayor has been discredited from the very start. And the evening lying standard is as idiotic today as it has always been. Everything I've said there is factual, world exclusive, original, investigative analysis. But there is no evidence of that being recognized by the evening lying standards. Lying standard instead devotes its analysis, so called, to the disclosures by the woman who alleged that the then frontrunner for selection as the mayoral candidate for the Conservatives had grabbed hold of her breasts at an event in number 10 Downing Street 10 years previously. Once this was done, the seal of that candidate frontrunner was the fate, political fate, the prospect was sealed. And there then began the series of shambles, including the most totally unfit Susan Hall and the criminal Paul Scully, who claims he's still claiming that he is the best candidate that should have been selected to run in the name of the Conservatives. Scully was unfit and racist, and Scully made himself even more unfit by bringing in the reference to Tower Hamlets. Not Tower Hamlets Council, not Lothurum and the Crook, but Tower Hamlets population generally were maligned by Paul Scully, who claimed falsely, completely, totally falsely, the Tower Hamlets area or Tower Hamlets borough contained areas that were no-go areas. By that he was meaning no-go areas for the Jews, no-go areas for white people, which is absolute pack of lies. The Scully was not selected, and Suzanne Hall manipulated her way and became the candidate. And the minute that she was confirmed as the candidate for the Conservatives, it was a certainty that she would lose, regardless of who the Labour Party's candidate was. And somebody is quoted in this piece by the Evening Standard, No Standards, saying, I like Suzanne, chairman of the cemeteries and crematorium committee. That is really very bad for Suzanne Hall. And there is yet another picture of Taylor Swift with her legs, the most prominent part of her anatomy, on display. And these legs are becoming offensive, totally offensive. Melanie McDonough, the racist criminal columnist, says there is now a gap in British politics for a brand new party. She's obviously peddling the lies, both for Nigel Farage and Dominic Cummings. Now, Cummings, in Friday's I newspaper, allegedly has given his first interview since leaving number 10 Downing Street. And Cummings is clearly contemptuous of Keir Starmer, as he is contemptuous of Rishi Sunak. He says that Boris and I will never talk again, but I have few regrets. And he claims that he and Boris saved hundreds of people from COVID deaths. Now that is a lie. What Cummings the liar is saying is that the COVID pandemic should have been allowed to kill more people than it did. By that, the idiot is saying that the state has no role, the state didn't exist, and it has no duties, etc., etc., etc. We shall be continuing on all of these in due course in later editions. This is 22 minutes, just over 22 minutes at 18:25 hours GMT on Friday, the 10th of May, 2024.